did some reactions. Today, I kind of want to expound on some of the things we spoke on yesterday. Um, I was watching a live stream, and it was actually a really, really good live stream. Let me actually put their name out here. It's like it was just a bunch of bros talking about how much they love the prequels, and I thought they were great. I even said in the chat like, "Yo, if you guys opening with for guests, like I want to talk about Star Wars. I miss talking about like the positivity side of things, but it's Cole Hauser. I think that's his account, right? Cole Hauser, and it's Ara. I'm guessing that's from Allah, but yeah, they talk about on his channel. It's at COLHAUSER. It was a good live stream. Just like it just reminded me of when me and my friends would just get together and talk about Star Wars at the comic book shop, or we'd like just hang out and talk about anything at each other's houses and hang and like just chilling outside. And they were reacting to the AI videos. Okay, nothing against the AI vids. I have a certain standard, or just a high standard when it comes to the canon. The EU, when you read it, there's contradictions that George Lucas had towards the films, towards other books that he also approved of. And, trying to get comfortable. I'm still a little sick, a little under the weather, but I'm chilling. And I got my Sprite. He had some contradictions, towards the lore, especially when it came to Abeloth and, like the gods of this universe, which I always think should stay in novels, as in like almost it's also like legend in the EU, in the universe itself, where like people don't really know. They've heard the stories. Like we as an audience, we read the story. I'm like, okay, that's canon, but we need to also come at it from the eyes of the characters that are currently living, and it's like, oh, they don't know, so that therefore we feel that it's canon, but it may or may not have happened because it's kind of a legend story. It's a legend mythos within the Star Wars galaxy. So there was some great, like almost every AI fan film. I think all of them definitely do it better than what Disney has done. It has. There is a slight issue though. When you're dealing with AI, especially as a fan and you're doing fan films, it's obvious you're not going to get things perfect, but you're also not even going to get it 50% correct when it comes to lore. When it comes to, understanding where the character is after certain situations. Like I would never consider myself a writer because I don't have anything published. I don't have any books completed, but I love writing. I love studying. Those of you who have been in the channel a while, you guys know I speak 5 languages. I love speaking, understanding the flow of words, the construction of everything, of how languages work, how you speak, high forms and low forms and whatnot, and how you would speak from certain living situations to the transitions from childhood to adulthood to teenager, and how it would be shaped by certain media and all that stuff, right? So there was one where Shmi is talking to Vader, and Vader's also talking to Shmi, and also Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and it's kind of a cool insight. And then he visits her grave, Padme's grave, which there was also always an implication that one of the reasons, or actually this wasn't like a George Lucas approved thing, but he mentioned it, especially when there used to be forums and blogs. I came up with a theory, and on this whole thing when The Force Unleashed came out, but he mentioned something similar beforehand, which is also why I came up with this theory, where when he saw Starkiller, he kind of got a glimpse of the light, and then when he visited Bail Organa and then saw Leia when she was around 5-6 years old, he also got that glimpse, and it kind of made him go to Padme's grave for the first time, which made Sidious upset because he believed that Anakin was dead, that Vader killed Anakin, right? Because that's the whole point. That was the entire point of him turning to the dark side, is that have the power of Anakin, but create this new Vader, and then later find out in the EU that it was a possibility that Palpatine was grooming Anakin to be the most powerful Lord to ever exist, and then he would take over his body and control that power, right? And part of the demotion that Palpatine or Darth Sidious gave Vader was putting the robes over his armor, and that was to remind him of how low he has become in the eyes of Palpatine. And only after he killed Obi-Wan was he able to put it under his armor, because he proved to Palpatine, to Darth Sidious, that he was no longer attached to the light, right? And so therefore Shmi and Qui-Gon wouldn't be connected. When you're focused on the dark side of the Force, you're not really connected to. You can't see the Force ghost. It's Palpatine never saw a Force ghost, and with all that power, it requires training to see a Force ghost, like pretty big boy training too. Yoda was only able to hear Qui-Gon's voice 10 years after the fact of his death, and even then it took another 5 years for him to really start communicating with Qui-Gon. Luke Skywalker was a totally different thing, because Obi-Wan trained for the next almost 2 decades of his life to connect through the other side of the Force, and so therefore he was able to show up to Luke, and because of their connection. And Luke, all he knew was the light at that point. So now you could call that an inconsistency, but it was more of it left a mystery to we don't really understand the Force truly, and there's training and sometimes there isn't training, depending on the circumstance. And so the Force was always supposed to stay a little bit non-conspicuous. It wasn't supposed to. It has a set of rules, but at the same time, there's exceptions. It's kind of like when you read Lord of the Rings, where God, he only interfered twice in the world of men, which is bringing Gandalf back as Gandalf the White, and tripping Gollum when he was fighting Frodo for the ring. Only 2 times he interfered. But yeah, I think something like that, a little more subtlety, goes a long way when it comes to writing and what we know to the original Star Wars before. Because as much as I love the prequels, that is not the standard we're supposed to live by. I love Return of the Jedi. It's my favorite movie out of all of them. But that's also not the standard. Empire is the standard. There's subtlety. There is a lot of, if you look at how it's written, there's romance without being romantic. A high amount of romance that's a little more real. It's not about making out all the time. It's not about going on dates, but it's high level of connection. There's a element of family there without even you understanding the family dynamic from the first 3 movies. Only halfway through the 3rd movie, from the original trilogy, halfway through the 3rd movie is where you understand that they are a family. But you already get that feeling by their camaraderie and their loyalty to one another, right? And that's where there was really good writing. In the Star Wars universe, you know, they're like George Lucas had a couple more ideas to flesh out how Vader was redeemed without giving everything away, because usually I think it's a universal rule across fantasy, across just humanity, that anything towards children, like, it's hell. You're going to hell. You are done. There's no redemption. There's no repentance that can absolve destroying the purity and only semblance of actual heaven and angels on the planet, on Earth, whatever. So there was this, you could say, theory that was going around, and then George Lucas semi-confirmed it, because if you look at most of his interviews, he doesn't really confirm anything. He just kind of like, that might have been something we talked about. That might be something that's on the drawing board or whatever. But there was an implication that Palpatine, and if you read the Revenge of the Sith novel, you could kind of understand that it was going that way, where Palpatine actually controlled Anakin when he came across the younglings, where he was killing the Jedi and then he couldn't get himself to kill the younglings, and he kind of had to give in to Darth Sidious so that Darth Sidious could bring out the darkness to him, where it was almost like both of them acted on it, but the actual massacre of the children was from Palpatine. It was from Darth Sidious. It wasn't from Anakin and his turn to the dark side. Like, it reconciled it in his brain, and before, like, let's also remember the old lore where the inhibitor chips were just for Order 66 was just to like force the Clone Wars if they resisted, because if you, like, that was after Battlefront. That was like a kind of a Dave Filoni thing, because on the Battlefront 2 game, you get like kind of the journals of the clones and how much PTSD they had. The clones followed the order. They chose to execute that order. They had a deep respect and loyalty towards the Jedi, but they also understood that the Jedi had loyalty towards the order. And when it came down to it, they would train and willing to kill the Jedi, based on the order, because they also understood those who are leaders, especially the Chancellor. He has the final say, and he knows more than they do. So if he gives out Order 66, things really ramped up, and there's a massive problem. But yeah, so excuse me. So when it comes to the prequels, it's been modified quite a bit. Even when George was in power, you can say. So Order 66 was changed by Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni also changed Mandalore. If you read the novel Republic Commando, the author, she was upset and left Lucasfilm because of the changes that Dave Filoni made, which at the time, George Lucas kind of stated that, like, it's a planet, so not all of Mandalore was the same, but then Dave Filoni he had free reign at that point, and he kind of just said, like, no, but like all of Mandalore is like this, and not like that novel at all. So that novel kind of became uncanon. There were other changes as well. Like, we got the Darth Maul comic and how he came back to life, and Uncle Ben, or not freaking Uncle Ben, Owen Lars killed him. and with a rifle as he was coming after Luke, and Obi-Wan fought very briefly, and Owen Lars sniped him, which he looks awesome, by the way. They also made a Hot Toy statue. Looks phenomenal. I have my own headcanon in how I think the whole interaction should have went. But yeah. So the Clone Wars, if it was done live action, like how Star Wars has been able to maintain different canon and move on from certain canon, it wasn't even from George Lucas's approval. It was through cinema. And things that George Lucas approved had a better stamp on it. So it's also the reason why fans don't consider Disney Star Wars as real Star Wars, because it goes against, and it isn't just that they're bad movies, but it actively goes against all of the Star Wars we know before. All of it. Like, they did prequels before the prequels that ruined Star Wars. They've done things in the middle that also ruined Star Wars. Like, season 7 is not a good season of Clone Wars. There is an issue there. There's a massive, massive issues in season 7. They've done The Mandalorian and on, that ruined the original trilogy. They've done the Kenobi show that also ruined the prequels and the originals. It's everything they've touched, and in any era has ruined all of the George Lucas era. Everything he worked on, even the EU, the books, like they've taken characters that they believed were so beloved because they were, and then bastardized them. So Thrawn, and this was all Dave Filoni. This is something I really want to point out. Dave Filoni had every chance to write his own characters, to really go beyond what we understood in the EU. And even though he did take some massive liberties, he still connected everybody. A galaxy is big. Let me just look here from what we know of the Milky Way galaxy. How many planets are in the Milky Way? Hundreds of billions of planets in the Milky Way. Likely at least one for every star, with some studies suggesting over 1 trillion, though the exact number is unknown as most are undiscovered exoplanets. Scientists estimate there are at least 100 billion planets, possibly reaching 400 billion or more, with a significant fraction potentially Earth-sized or inhabitable zones, though only a few thousand have been confirmed. Dude, just a few thousand. We don't even know a few thousand planets in the Star Wars universe. That was their license to print money. It truly was. That Star Wars was not just so great that it was a license to print money. It was the ultimate outlet for creativity within this universe. You had everything going for you. You could literally write within the same timeline that never cross of what's going on some random planet or some other government organization. Because think about it this way. The Republic had its planets that were under the Republic. Great. Then we had the Outer Rim. Then we had the planets that the Separatists had control over. Okay? All of that formed the Empire, and then the Empire started conquering planets that were either had certain resources or had no real habitat or no real civilization. And then they would come across other types of civilizations. So the EU expounded on that. They even brought creatures from outside of the galaxy to give that element without the Force, And then we had factions like the Grey Jedi, which were on planets that were also outside of the Republic and the Separatists. There was a lot that they could do with that. Their lightsabers weren't exclusive to the Republic. just the Jedi Order was like the closest thing to the true order of old that the first Jedi came to be. And then in the EU, Luke Skywalker perfected the order, where it's like the attachment. It's like the scripture passage that everybody like misinterprets. Like the love for money is the root of all evil. Everybody interprets it as the money is the root of all evil, but it's not. It's the love of money. So, like when they talked about attachments, like the Jedi conflated that with the ability to love with actually loving married, like it, which is true that it makes you attached. It makes you sometimes cloud your judgment for the hard decisions, which is, I would say, a good thing. It's fine. It kind of keeps your integrity in line. But what the Jedi wanted was order and having the Jedi as number one above all your desires and attachments, right? Not a bad thing. Hold on, give me 1 second, ladies. All right. It was about always making sure that the Jedi always put the order above everything, right? Which, if you think about it in a business sense, it makes, like, that's what you want out of your employees. You want them, like, think about the mafia. If they call you, your mother on her deathbed, your kids drowning, all second priority. You go and you handle that business, because that's the oath you made. Their belief is beyond this life. It is with God and with them, and they are with God, and that's how they live, right? So, oh shoot, F me. Give me a second. Something got effed up. So you have this almost monopoly on people that you control to be attached to your cult / religion / whatever you want to call it. Like, because the Jedi, unfortunately, they did become a cult. In every negative of the sense, because they also weren't able to see the writing on the wall, and they got blinded by darkness. They still had good in them, but they were able to be infiltrated by the darkness. And it isn't to say the good cannot be tempted. Being tempted is one thing, but shrugging off that temptation and just believing it's not there, that's another thing. And unfortunately, Yoda kind of, like, it's why he went to exile, because he effed up. He pretty much just assumed everybody was as powerful as he was in a way, in terms of wisdom and all that. And Yoda made many, many mistakes. And some might say, like, he shouldn't have made those mistakes because he was almost 900 years old. Well, if you live a certain way for hundreds and hundreds of years without even being open to others' perspectives and discussions, and then you got towards the end of that order, you got very politically involved, and you ceased to be keepers of the peace and became more puppets, yeah, you're gonna make mistakes. And it's possible that you're also gonna be prideful. You're going to think, like, that's why they were all ashamed when they realized that the Sith returned and possibly never went away, and they couldn't feel their presence. Like, they found out they had a massive weakness, and the most embarrassing thing was finding out that Chancellor was Darth Sidious, and they told the Dark Lord of the Sith every single one of their weaknesses. So they They orchestrated their own downfall. And that's the sad part of the entire story, is that they were not just manipulated, but literally every move they made was to supplement their downfall. And that's a freaking hard pill to swallow, man. Especially being one of the last Jedis alive, and you were the head of the Order, being Yoda, and because of you, the death of the Jedi happened. And even during your exile, you're still feeling the pain of Jedi throughout the galaxy being killed off by Vader and all other hunters / bounty hunters. I don't consider Inquisitors a thing. Star Killer, Vader apprentices, and the right hands, and I guess you could say Darth Sidious had Inquisitors or loyal servants. I forgot what they're called. Like Mara Jade was the right hand of Sidious. That's why she named the saber right hand. I think that right. I might be mistaken. It's been a long time since I actually read the EU. Especially the Mara Jade and Return of the Jedi crossover lines. But yeah, like the Star Wars universe. And here's the thing. In that live stream I was listening to, they said something that was very clear, as something every fan knows. It didn't have to be this way. Disney did not have to ruin Star Wars. They did not have to ruin anything like Indiana Jones, anything within Lucasfilm the way they did it, right? But they did. And shout out to Quarter Black Garrett. He's the one that edits Nerdrotic's videos. If you go to the Nerdrotic channel, his video on Kathleen Kennedy leaving, I think it's like 10 minutes long. We reacted to it yesterday. Like, just the beginning edit kind of shows like all of Kathleen Kennedy's lies and all the truths that contradict those lies that she was also in the room for when George Lucas was talking. It was embarrassing just by that video alone. And she never coughed up to it. She never apologized. Like this, it's one of the reasons why we lost, because we didn't get an apology. We didn't get to see her fired. She retired and put in Dave Filoni, which also means freaking nothing. Dave Filoni's a part of it. He's in it. He's been a part of it. And yeah, like it's that simple. Like there's no two ways about it. She won. She destroyed all of Lucasfilm. It's the most impressive feat. Like, she destroyed an entire company, not just the most influential and one of the most important and beloved IPs of all time. She was able to destroy that in less than 10 years. Less than 10 years, man. And then she was able to destroy the company itself in, I think, 12 years. Like, she also destroyed Indiana Jones. She destroyed, like, things that kids gravitated to, like Willow. I can't, like, let me see everything, every IP that Lucasfilm has. Okay, so they got the Star Wars universe, Indiana Jones. Okay, this is not giving me a whole lot. Willow. Also, she destroyed LucasArts, the gaming company, which is insane. Let me go to Lucasfilm Originals. Why does it have to be so complicated, man? But you guys get it. Anything Lucasfilm had, dead, destroyed, kaput. I'm getting distracted. we there was no successor. That was a big issue. That's where George Lucas screwed up. He kind of just got to the point where, like, oh, this person understands business. They understand how I operate the world and how much I love this thing. That's great. The issue was he didn't groom anybody and help them to really progress the story. He didn't let people like take over stories and see if they draw the same conclusion as he did. You know, the best successor ever, as I've said multiple times before, was Christopher Tolkien, and he really loved, and he worked with his dad towards the end, and they kind of drew the same conclusion, that he was point out things to his dad that he might have forgot lore wise that would contradict, and he even did that as a kid when J.R.R. Tolkien would tell him stories of the Hobbit. One of the reasons he started writing it down was because his kid, when he heard bedtime stories, like, hold on, that can't happen because this already happened with this character. And then he's like, oh yeah. And then he realized that his Christopher, specifically, and all his kids would kind of pay so much attention that they remembered it so well that he couldn't just make something up randomly anymore. He had to kind of have a structure, which is great. Thanks to J.R. Tolkien and his kids is the reason why we have Middle Earth. All right. I would say, if, as much as I don't like Steven Spielberg's later works, I think if he brought in Steven Spielberg and maybe someone else, he could, like, we would have had a very different story on how Lucasfilm turned out. But that's beside the point, because we're in this timeline. This is how Lucasfilm is right now. I've said this, and I'll keep saying it a million times over and over and over. The only way to save Lucasfilm, to save Star Wars specifically, is for you to get it out of Disney, fire half the staff at the very least, destroy everything after mid 2013, and start adapting the EU, the original EU. And I would probably say you need to make 7, 8, and 9 way beyond what the EU ended up, because the EU ended 130 years after the fact. I would say you have to do 7, 8, and 9 stories 1,000 years later from Return of the Jedi. Around there. Because the whole point of the balance of the Force is that there is an end to the entire story. There is an end. We can't keep just making movies because we like this IP, but progressing the main storyline. Like, we could tell a billion side stories, stories that isn't just earth-shattering and the destruction of the universe. Like, think about how great some movies are where it's just about some guy just trying to make it in life, or just trying to overcome this one hurdle, or becoming a family man. And those stories are incredible in and of itself. We don't always need Darth Sidious coming back, the dark side ruining everything. It could be an element that stays on, obviously, but we gotta go back to regular storytelling of the regular Joe in every universe. We don't have to, and I think that's what is gonna bring on the fans. Like, look at Andor. It's like a 5 out of 10 show. Overall, I think objectively 5 out of 10 is pretty good, because the pacing I'm fine with. It is slow, but I'm fine with what I'm not fine with is the very explicit dialogue. There was too much tell instead of show. And then there was a good amount of show, but those elements that didn't feel like Star Wars. It felt like Empire stuff, but it didn't feel like Star Wars. That when you take the Force out of it, because the Force is an element that needs to stay around all Star Wars projects. And there's certain things that can never be involved in Star Wars, Homosexuality is one of them. Should never even touch Star Wars. Cursing is another one. Should never be in Star Wars. Like politics is Star Wars, but it isn't explicit. Explicit language or visuals should never be. Like, we know how babies are made. We don't need to see people, the implication of them boning. We understand romance. We don't need that stuff. Sex scenes should never be in Star Wars. This is just elementary stuff that we need to understand, you know? Like, all the stuff I talked about that shouldn't be in Star Wars, obviously could be in other things. But those same things I talked about also shouldn't be in Lord of the Rings, because that's what it was created to do, is not to have those things. Game of Thrones, go ahead, man. George R. R. Martin literally wrote that stuff to have all that in it. He thinks he's better than everybody and thinks that he's the arbiter of truth and that's the best way to write something. He believes that. Let him believe it. Let him write his own thing. Go be a fan of that. But don't tell me Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Marvel, DC all need to be Game of Thrones. It don't. It don't, man. Yeah, 4 seasons of phenomenal writing. Phenomenal. 2 seasons that are palatable, and 1.5 season that's palatable, 5 and 6, and then 2 very atrocious with 1 decent episode. Freaking pile drive molestation. That was Game of Thrones. Okay. Yeah, there's writing and dialogue that you can take from it to progress your writing ability, because George R. R. Martin, he might be a narcissist, a cynical, a freaking animal, but he knows dialogue. He knows the English language. That you can give him props to. He does understand how to form sentences to each character based on their life experiences. He knows how to flesh them out. He does know how to do that. Okay? He's just a pussy. That's the only thing. So I think about it this way. There'll be a time where either I or one of you or somebody literally won't be able to take it no more, and you'll be ambitious and literally have the need to save certain IPs. Whether it be Star Wars, whether it be DC, Marvel, and you'll be able to find the right people to make that money somehow and buy that property back and truly do it justice. I believe that will one day happen. Do I believe it will happen in my lifetime? I would say it's a high possibility, because almost all these companies are heading towards bankruptcy. Disney, they don't admit failure, but they are failing. Lucasfilm, as its own company, it would be dead if let's say George Lucas did all this stuff. Right at, like, not even right now, years ago, he probably would have started been selling pieces of the company. Hey, Disney, here's Indiana Jones. Hey, Warner Brothers, here's Willow. Hey, Paramount, here's Red Tails. Whatever he's got, he's going to be selling out every here and there, every little bit. Because if Lucasfilm was by itself right now, it would be a dead company. It would have been gone so long ago, man. No more video games, nothing. Like, right now, like, even the toy rights don't matter because they're not selling toys. Nobody's buying either. Nobody's buying the toys that they're currently making, and they're not making any toys. Even the replica stuff, it's not selling, man. It just sits on a shelf all day. I think they even had toys that were... Oh, yeah, they had, like, a couple lightsabers that were, like, if it gets enough votes or whatever, we'll make it and sell it in stores, and it didn't hit. Like, it was supposed to be, I think, Reva's from the Kenobi show, the freaking insufferable actress / character. And unfortunately, it didn't hit. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Man, I I gotta say I really enjoyed that live stream I saw, because it was nice to see people just loving Star Wars. Not loving in terms of like they're blinded by how Lucasfilm currently is or anything like that. It was just they loved what George Lucas created. And I thought, and they were just expounding on that. They would point out, Lucasfilm's current issues, and Disney and all that stuff, but they were really focused on the love of the prequels and how fans did AI. Like, look, I might criticize AI quite a bit and the storytelling behind that. I've criticized, the Vader fan film that Theory created, but it all came out of love. Like, there's a respect to that, where when somebody creates something, even if it's copying a fan film, a theory, and they do it out of love and respect, like, it's commendable. Not the freaking, sensual stuff that people do. Those freaks, man. That you see, like, when you Google, don't freaking Google fan films of Star Wars, man. It is not. You're gonna run into some problems. You might get put on a list. It ain't pretty. The internet ain't pretty, brother. But they, like, when somebody actually tries to do a lore based fan film, even just theories of what they think would happen, I think it is a great thing. I think you should put it out there, and that might inspire you to do your own thing. Like I don't doubt like Gundam was inspired by Star Wars. They're the only ones that was able to steal lightsabers from Star Wars and make it real, make it work in a different type of universe, and they did it. It's freaking phenomenal. There's many things which I will never break on, where it's like, okay, if you have a fan film, I get it, you're a fan, but you put out content, I get scrutinized, and I just mainly do live streams, and I deserve the scrutiny. I deserve like, when you put yourself out there, you deserve whatever comes at you, man, because you put yourself out there. Like, if I make bad films or bad entertainment, I deserve the backlash. And even if I make good entertainment, I still deserve backlash so that I can get better, because there's going to be parts where people are not going to like, or that people are going to like. And that just happens. Even if you make the most perfect cinema, there's going to be people that love it that will also criticize it because of their palate. And that's just how it works. It's going to be usually perfect for you. Okay, because it was your vision. And that's the only person it'll be perfect for. It'll be 99.9% perfect for everybody else, possibly. But there's that 0.1%, man. And that 0.1% is very big. And it will be very eye-opening to those who create. And again, I'm not a good creator, because I was sick of filming videos and then waiting for it to load and then changing it from MOV to MP3 or MP4 or whatever, and then downloading it and take a few hours and then publishing it. Like, I was sick of that. So I was like, I'm just going to do live streams. And then if I think I condense the topic well enough, I'll cut that and separate it into a video to put it out there so people could just watch part of the live stream. That's how my channel is working out. That's how I want to do it. And I'm probably never going to have the time to like edit and learn the way Quarter Black does. Right now he's, if you guys want to go watch a video game stream, go watch his stream. He's currently streaming Silent Hill, and I freaking hate it. I like watching him play, though. He's a cool dude. I like seeing his style. And like, I've actually thought about, like, with his personality, I got a good vibe from him. I might reach out to him, like, see if he wants to start a show with me, because I just want to have fun, man. I want to talk about this kind of stuff. I don't really, like, and lately it's more, I always tune in to, like, the Nerdrotic Geeks and Gamers crew, like those guys. But there's a lot of Star Trek stuff happening right now, and I don't want to talk about Star Trek. I really don't want to do that, man. I do have to learn how to all this Streamlab weird stuff works. But yeah, I don't give a damn about Star Trek. Like, do you guys, man? Like I was very much like, oh, Star Wars versus Star Trek. Like I wasn't the one that was fan of both. I am fan of certain episodes. A fan of like Wrath of Khan. I think it was awesome, but I was never so invested that I want to talk about after it was destroyed. I think I feel for Star Trek fans. Like if I were to direct a Fanboys 2 movie, I always forget the name of the fat guy, but he's my favorite character. I would probably have him like hugging Seth Rogen, the Star Trek character, and was like, "Hey, look, man, what they did to Star Wars was unforgivable, but what they also did to Star Trek that was effed up, and they're still, just freaking railing you from behind, and then they just hug it out and become like somewhat friends." It's like, so we friends? Like, no, but we understand each other, and then that's it. Cut to another scene, and I would do that. But yeah, like I would do a scene. And by the way, Fanboy is one of the best, probably the best movie to illustrate what fandom is like, and just joy and a great comedy, and with satire and love for George Lucas, with also honest criticism of the prequels in a way. And so, yeah, watch Fanboys, man. One of the best, probably one of my all-time favorite movies. It is definitely an all-time favorite movie of mine. I don't have really much to say. I kind of put it on. I didn't know what I was going to talk about today, but I've been really reminiscing about Star Wars. Especially my son asked me to watch Star Wars with him the other day, and I was like, okay, before we watch Star Wars, we need to watch Lord of the Rings. So we've been watching Lord of the Rings. We're on halfway through the Two Towers. I split it up so that like he doesn't spend 4 hours in front of a TV. He's 5. He needs to play. He needs to be outside. He needs to go to school and whatnot. So we watch it on the weekends. And we'll probably finish it by Sunday. But yeah, and even though I've been watching Lord of the Rings, I'm not really on a fantasy kick. I just miss Star Wars, man. Like look, Star Wars panel. I got a Theory Saber right there, which I should probably freaking charge, actually. Let me pull it down. It don't have battery right now, but it's the Mace Windu. Let's see if it'll focus. Okay, let me focus it. I need to make the camera automatic. Freaking it. It's nice. Focus on my face. Let me freaking... Yeah, see, you press it. Nothing. It is a phenomenal product. I do need to make a review of this saber in particular. I bought it when the company first came out, pretty much. This one, the buttons got stuck. Second day, still has issues. I have criticisms about it. They only last 2 hours. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's not, but it is very accurate. The Anakin one is not so accurate. He came out with a Dooku one, which is my favorite one, but it's not Dooku. It's like a version of it. Like, I guess his own spin on it, because, dude, my favorite actor is Sir Christopher Lee. So much so, like, it's sad for me specifically the day he died, because he died on my birthday, June 7th. He died then. And I was devastated, man. But his acting chops, just him being the behemoth he was, being the great man he was, man, I love that guy. And, Count Dooku is a favorite character of mine. Is this loose? I can't tell. Do I need to tighten this? It's a little annoying. I can't even tell if this is loose or not. Okay, there we go. It was loose. But yeah. Great sabers. This is like a rubber part of the Theory saber, and it has a good grip. Like you could keep it like that. You know, it's not gonna fall. It's nice. Probably in terms of thickness, the most accurate. It's very thin. I have Ultra Sabers. I have Saberforge. Saberforge actually probably has the most accurate. They have the MK4s. Those are nice. And they have the best Count Dooku replica lightsaber that you can also battle with. And it is Profi-like. Theory Sabers, their packaging is phenomenal. So their boxing, their whole equipment. I'd say if Theory Sabers really wants to stand out, they should make a stand that is magnetic charging of the lightsaber. Like that's icing on the cake. Recharge ports are like the saber doesn't look as good than one without a recharge port, but it's so convenient. Instead of opening it and taking out the battery to charge it, then putting it back in and keep doing that over and over again, I'd rather have a recharge port. But if you do a magnetic stand that you just lay the lightsaber on and it charges, even if it's a slow charge, you just leave it overnight, man. Like if you could come up with some sort of technology like that, brother, you win. I don't think there's any other company. And I know that you you have your own supplier and warehouse or whatnot. You don't do this yourself. But if you were to do kind of like what Microsoft does with their wireless technology, you're able to do one-off lightsabers that you yourself handcrafted and came up with this technology and you got a patent to it and you don't share it with nobody, dude. Whatever that lightsaber design, yeah, you're off to the races, man. You're gonna beat every single company that does that's a lightsaber company, just off one product, one lightsaber. But ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm actually gonna go back to Quarter Black's stream. I've been kind of negative on his chat, and I've been feeling bad about that. But I hate Silent Hill. I think it's a stupid game. I think it's ridiculous. And I might get back on Master Duel again. Probably not so much Fallout. Fallout, I don't see how the story gets happy, you know? Because right now, the belief, I haven't looked up spoilers, but the belief is that Sean, his kid, is like 10, 11 years old. And being raised by the Institute, he might hate his dad. And even then, there's like, okay, you can still raise him. But if he's an adult, you're going to have to kill him. Like, he's already far, but he's not your kid no more. You know, and being raised by the Institute, he's probably evil. Because that's the way I feel. I'm going to kill everybody in the Institute in Fallout. Like, there's no freaking way. Like, just reading the freaking terminals and what they do and reading, like, nobody has a good experience. Even the freaking synths, dude. You gotta be kidding me. Yeah, like, the Institute ain't good. Vault-Tec ain't good either, you know. But, like, I want to know who's the head of Vault-Tec. Like, did the Institute partner with Vault-Tec? Like, again, this might be basic lore, but I'm just going off the game that I'm playing. And I miss freaking good. Maybe I'll do Force Unleashed. I'll keep going. I remember I started doing playthrough and I forgot where I ended off. I'm on Kashyyyk. And that's where I am. Yeah, I might do a Force Unleashed playthrough, you know, for funsies. But damn, yeah, maybe I'll do that tomorrow. We'll see. Freaking see, man. But all right, guys, there was something else I wanted to talk about. Coming up, I might do a Lego sorting live stream. I don't know how I'm gonna do it because I'm gonna have to point the camera down and like just have me. Actually, I can do it. Just maybe like my face won't have high quality. We'll have good quality on the Legos and the sounds and how to do it. Because, dude, sorting Legos takes a freaking while, man. But I love playing Legos. I love messing with Legos. I love building. So we'll do a live stream where I'll answer a bunch of questions. I'll set it up and maybe do it like a week or two from the date. But yeah, good news though. I do start my other job on the 2nd of February. Sort of. Things are going good. Pest control. Excited. And I'm sick of just like chilling. I would obviously do YouTube full time if I was getting paid, man. If I was getting paid like $4,000 a month, I'm set for life. I'm a simple dude. I am ambitious. I do want to do things that require way more money, but like to provide for my family, solid $4,000, all I need. Less than $1,000 per member of the household. But Star Wars, I'm not gonna say don't give up on it, but I'm gonna say respect what came before, the memories. Remember the good times. Connect with like-minded people who had a love for Star Wars at one point. Don't let these evil corporate heads take away like the good memories. Okay, take away what came before. Don't let that happen. Love Star Wars. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe, douchebags. Appreciate it. Ta-da. Man, I think I put in the wrong thumbnail. Let me change that real quick. Photos. That's it. The Late Night Show. So you guys got a glimpse of the video that I took that I edited down from a live stream. It's a 11-minute video that I'm posting it hopefully tomorrow morning. And that was the thumbnail because Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy are the same people. So, yeah. I'm out.